This talk is about the stages of change that have been defined in what is known as the trans-theoretical model. This model proposes that human beings go through several steps in the process of intentionally changing a belief, attitude, or behavior. It has contributed to the development of a motivational interviewing approach to initiating a dialogue about an individual's feelings about their symptoms. I want to start by reading a poem by Portia Nelson. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It takes a long time to get out. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are wide. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. I walk down another street. Change implies phenomena occurring over time. This model recognizes change as a process that unfolds over time and progressing through a series of stages. Progression through these stages can take people different amounts of time, and each belief, attitude, or behavior that the person wants to change progresses through these stages independent of one another. People in the pre-contemplation stage are not ready for change. They have no awareness of their responsibility or for the need for a change. This implies that the therapist is aware of a problem behavior, but the client is not. This is not uncommon in people with substance use disorders and eating disorders. But it can also arise when the therapist has a well-defined model of mental health that views inequality, sexism, or racism as unhealthy and problematic, but the client does not share those values. People in the contemplation stage are getting ready to change and are aware that they have some responsibility for the nature of their life experiences, relationships, and challenges. But they are uncertain about what to do to change and have not made a commitment to change. People in the preparation stage are ready to change and are willing to commit to change. They may be forming a plan of action. People in the action stage have made specific, overt changes in their life. People in the maintenance stage are working to have the new behavior become a habit and developing strategies for preventing relapse. Assessment of the stage of change is very useful in treatment planning because people in different stages respond best to specific types of interventions and less well to others. For example, people in pre-contemplation can use consciousness-raising activities much more than encouragement, while people in contemplation and preparation use encouragement much more than consciousness-raising. The easiest way to use this concept of the stages of change is to listen for their presence as you interview. Different symptoms or problems may be seen differently, so you want to think about a listening for a stage for each problem rather than a global score for the person. The readiness and motivation interview was created to assess people with eating disorders, but I think it gives us guidance in the assessment of any problem or symptom. The RMI guides us through a symptom-by-symptom inquiry to arrive at a rating for 3 stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, and action maintenance. The interview asks the client to rate some questions in a percentage form, and the clinician turns these percentages into a rating score from 1 to 5 for research purposes. The interview is structured around 2 questions, and these questions are asked about each symptom or problem. The first question is, do you experience this as a problem? If the answer is yes, the follow-up question is, how is this a problem? Some people will respond that they like the symptom but are dissatisfied with its effectiveness. For example, a client may wish to increase the frequency or see it as not as effective as their goal, such as weight reduction. This indicates a person in the pre-contemplation stage. If there are indications in the response that the person does not like the symptom and is trying to change it, the interview moves on to the next question. If the person indicates that they do not experience the symptom as a problem, the follow-up question is, how is it that this is not a problem? A pre-contemplation response would be that they like the symptom, but if the response is that they're trying to decrease the behavior, the interview moves on to the next question. The second question is, are you trying to change the symptom? You may already have the answer to this question from your inquiry in the previous question. If the answer is yes, the person is trying to change. The follow-up question is, how are you trying to change? From this inquiry, you can determine a percentage for each action stage. You can ask, is there any part of you that is not wanting to change, to arrive at a ratio of pre-contemplation and contemplation. If the person indicates that they are not currently trying to change, the follow-up question is, do you want to change it? If the answer is yes, you can ask, how much are you seriously thinking about the change, to establish the contemplation, pre-contemplation percentage. Obviously, if the answer is no, the person is in the pre-contemplation stage. There is a handout with some case studies, including interviews and ratings. You may recall that earlier in this course we talked about a couple of rulers, the session rating scale and the outcome rating scale. Here is a version of that assessment strategy that is oriented to readiness to change. This would most appropriately be completed for each symptom or problem. Remember that the lines are 10 centimeters in length, so with a centimeter ruler you can generate a score from 0 to 100. The handout for this talk includes a variety of questions related to an assessment of willingness, readiness, and motivation to change. Of course, psychologists have developed several questionnaires to assess the readiness to change. In the handout, there is a link to a 10-item quiz that you could easily adapt for use in your assessment process. But the gold standard measure for stages of change assessment was developed at the University of Rhode Island. The University of Rhode Island Change Assessment Scale was originally designed with the 5 stages of change in mind. However, as the measure was evaluated, the questions did not load onto one of the factors, preparation. So now the Eureka measures 4 stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, action, and maintenance. There are a number of versions of this questionnaire. It has been adapted to assess things like readiness to exercise or to quit smoking, as well as readiness to reduce substance use or address domestic violence. I have included the psychotherapy version in the handouts, as well as the scoring materials. You may want to complete this questionnaire using the scoring table in the handouts. Your scores range from 1 to 5 for each item, so you get a total score for each of the 4 stages. You can also compute what is called a readiness score by adding the contemplation, action, and maintenance scores together and then subtracting the pre-contemplation score. Some norms and profiles are described in the handout called profiles.